Welcome back to biology. So we are going to continue with the mollusks. This is still chapter 34 with the protostomes, and we're in the Lophotrochozoans. And so we're going to finish up mollusks and start on annelids. Woo! Worms. All right. So when we last recorded, we went through the chitons. So let's just remember. Let's review in the mollusks. So kingdom Animalia, that's where we live forever now. Phylum Mollusca, you have several classes, and we're only talking about some of them, okay? So just remember that. There are 7 or 8 classes, depending on your definition of the phylogeny, or your preferred hypothesis for the phylogeny. So you have chitons, class Polykeets. You have bivalves, which is what we were just talking about when we ended the last video, right? Those are the mussels and clams. You have gastropods, which are the snails and the limpets and slugs. And we're about to talk about the cephalopods. So, and the scaphopods, which are the tube shells, right? All right, so those are the ones we've been talking about that we're going to focus on. So let's just talk about cephalopods. The class Cephalopoda. These are the squid, octopi, nautiluses. So the cute little dudes that have, instead of a muscular foot, they have tentacles and arms. Okay, these are marine animals, and most of them are predatory. So they are active hunters and predators. Oh, I forgot about the cuttlefish too. Yeah, so here you have beautiful little cephalopod cuttlefish. Okay, let's just appreciate that for a little bit. Look at that. Okay. So one big thing we talked about how mollusks have open circulatory systems, except for cephalopods. Cephalopods have pretty advanced. Of the mollusks, the cephalopods seem to be the most advanced. That's probably the best way to say that. They have very complex eyes. They have a closed circulatory system, just like I said. Rather than having that muscular foot as a ventral foot, or, just a foot, one big old foot, they have arms and tentacles. And most of them have suction cups on those arms. And I say most of them because there are some in the cephalopod class that do not, but most do. I mean, you think most of you have seen an octopus, right? I hope so. If not, well, you're on a computer, man. Like, Google some octopi. Like, this is the perfect thing. Here is where you can actually watch lectures and be on your computer at the same time. Well, you have to be. Okay, anyway. So, also, they have a radula and they have beak-like jaws, and that radula is modified, and basically they can grip prey with their beak and like eat and ingest it. And they also have, oh, I make that sound a lot, don't I? I should work on that. Sorry. They have very large brains. Sorry, I'm moving you around. Don't let the cephalopod, get too big of a head about that, but they do. And they are very intelligent, highly intelligent, like super duper intelligent. You can ask an octopus to solve a problem, and it can. I'm going to show you that here in just a bit. And yeah, so let's get going. Now that I'm looking outside, it's cloudy. You know what? We can go. Let's go to my office. I hate teaching on the couch. Okay, so mollusks. All right, so problem solving. I was telling you that octopi can problem solve. I was about to show you that. Here you are. So here you see an octopus. Yay, we're back. We're back in the office, Morty. We are. Okay. Morty loves octopi. He really does. Piggy, do you love octopi too? Here you can very clearly see, so this is actually the mouth of the octopus, and tentacles with and arms with tentacles with suction cups. And this is showing, and actually there's a link to videos. This next slide is a video. So I'm going to let you do that on your own. Please watch these videos because you can actually see the octopus moving and doing things. Folks put food inside of a bottle and the octopus can actually screw the bottle open. There's quite a few videos online of octopi doing pretty cute things. Various cephalopods doing cute stuff. So look those up. These organisms are amazing. They're very, very intelligent. Okay. All right. So some hallmarks of the cephalopods. These, you may have noticed, do not have an external shell, except for the chambered nautilus, which I'll show you in a sec. They do have a shell, but octopi, squid, and cuttlefish do not. Now, there is a qualifier to that. Squid and cuttlefish have what's called a pen. Another name for it is a gladius. So that is a hard internal structure that is a vestigial shell. It's an internal shell-like structure. So it's a vestige of that mollusk shell. So just be aware of that. Squid and cuttlefish do have a pen, but they don't have any external shell. Octopi do not have shells. Okay, how do they move? Well, they have you seen an octopus move? It's actually jet propulsion through their siphon. So let me show you where that is. So here you have, look at the little buddy. So here you have the body. So, oh yeah, I should tell you, cephalopod. So head, foot, right? So head, body, and arms. Okay. So they are organized quite a bit different from the other animals that you're probably familiar with. So here is the siphon. So this is how the octopus and cephalopod, squid, do this too, move. And you'll see that in this week's lab. Dr. Jones will point out the siphon and the squid, or the person who does the dissection will, and then yeah, okay. We're doing everything different, I know. So, all right, so here's the siphon. So this is what's used to propel um, the cephalopod around. It is also important for the use of ink, which is to essentially, it's a defense mechanism to deter predators or to distract predators. Here you can see the internal anatomy of the animal, so the siphon there, used for jet propulsion, right? Very complex eye, the brain, your digestive gland, the digestive system, the stomach, right? Gonad, these are, remember, gonochoric or dioecious, so you have males and females. You have the ink sac, and you're going to see all this week in lab, and of course the gill for respiration. One cool thing about octopi and squid, well, one cool thing particularly about cephalopods is that they can, many of them can change color. And basically what they're doing, these are with chromatophores, and that allows them to change colors either to, well, reflect light in a way, is what I should say. They look like they're changing colors, they're reflecting light, so that they can either hide themselves from predators or to actually communicate with other organisms, other cephalopods. All right, so let's talk about the different kinds of cephalopods. This is a cuttlefish. Well, cuttlefish. Cuttlefish, yes. Cuttlefish. I think I've said that enough, don't you? All right, so these organisms have a flat body, but they have a fin that goes along the body, 8 arms, 2 tentacles. So most of what you're seeing on the animal is arms, and then they have, so the way you tell the difference, here's how you tell the difference. I should have shown you with the octopi as like arms and tentacles. They're mostly arms. Here we go. So these are arms. Okay. Arms have the suction cups. So you have arms, and then tentacles are, when you look at like a squid or a cuttlefish, they're kind of like curly on the bottom. Let me see if I can show you with the squid. You don't see it very easily on the squid, but in the squid dissection, it should be pretty clear, the differentiation between the arms and the tentacles, the 2 tentacles. If that's not clear, I can post a picture, but I'm pretty sure that that is very clear on the dissection. All right, so cuttlefish do have an internal shell. That vestigial, well, it's not, I mean, it's a shell, but it's a vestige of that external mollusk shell is what it is. And it's actually helpful to them with buoyancy, so moving around and changing depth in the water. My dog really wants to go outside. Okay, so let's talk about octopi. Octopi. Octopus? Yes, octopi. So these organisms have 8 long arms. Arms. And remember, the arms have suction cups on them, so you can be very sure that you're looking at an arm. All right, but with octopi, it's all arms. They live, I mean, since they're bottom dwellers, they tend to be predatory, and they tend to hunt along the bottom, or they'll hide somewhere and watch for prey. And they, like I said, they have a beak-like jaw. It's really dark. It's like, it almost looks like a bird beak. And that jaw can hold their prey, and they and then they secrete a substance, a toxic substance, to paralyze prey, and then use the radula to break it apart and eat it. Yep. So like this. I'm an octopus. Morty is a little saker fish or something. And then I use my radula. Well, it's not exactly like that, actually. I should post a picture. I should post a video of that. Let me write down all the videos I need to post, because it's a radula, but it's a somewhat modified radula. Okay, and then of course they ink. If you've ever seen Finding Nemo, you saw the little octopus. You got really embarrassed. You guys made me ink because they scared her. That's because it's a defense mechanism, specifically to distract predators, so that they can get away and hide. Octopi. All right, so let's talk about squid. Squid are the organisms being dissected in the lab this week. Wait, it was last week. Was it last week? Oh no, it was last week. Last week. So squid, you have, these guys are really great with locomotion. I mean, so are octopi are as well. But the squid have an advantage of these 2 triangular fins on their mantle. So they're able to move backwards and forwards much more easily because they have those fins. Yeah. And it also allows them to stay still in the water calm. They can kind of flap them in a certain way so they can just hang out and watch if they're looking at prey or watching a predator or what have you. So these organisms have 8 arms and 2 tentacles. So you can fill that in. and they all have suckers in the squid. Okay, cool. So just like with the cuttlefish, the squid have a pen, octopi don't, and these organisms can be really small up to really huge giant squid. Okay, let's talk about the chambered nautilus. So this is the last cephalopod that we're going to talk about. These guys are really cool because they use so here's the inside of the shell. So the organism's all kind of stuffed up here with the tentacles sticking out. And then these are gas-filled chambers, and they use it basically to swim. It says buoyancy organ. They like swim kind of backwards. They push water out and they go, whoo. That's how a nautilus swims, like this. And it looks kind of like that. So look up some videos. It's really fun. Again, they have tentacles. These guys don't have suckers. Okay. Here's the thing. I just want you to know, squid, you've got suckers on your tentacles and arms. Octopi, you have just arms. I'm not going to ask you about their arms per se, but I want you to know because those are some of the differences between them. So I just want you to be aware of them. Okay. But the main things to remember always about these organisms are, what defines what is distinct to the mollusks, right? And of course, there's exceptions within the mollusks. But there are features like the radula, but again, like bivalves don't have a radula, but that is a distinct feature of most of the mollusks. And then within each group, what are the distinct features, right? So the cephalopods, you have that foot is not a foot, like one foot. It is arms and tentacles, and there's some differences among the cephalopods, but those are the main things. Make sure you know distinguishing features, okay? So that you could describe the animals. If someone were to come up to you, and that's something that I often like to ask folks on tests, somebody comes up to you and they've never seen a cephalopod or never heard of one. Tell them what makes that cephalopod a mollusk and distinct as a mollusk. So what's distinct about it? Well, it's a mollusk, and this is what we know about mollusks. And then what makes it special as a cephalopod? Okay, cool. So those are the mollusks. We're done with mollusks, but I would like to go ahead and move on to the annelids, just so that we can keep it moving. So we're gonna start on annelids. Here we go. Close. Oh. Okay. Here he is. Hope you can see that. Let's check. Yes! So this is protostomes part 3. And we are still so the Lophotrochozoans, these are still Lophotrochozoans. So within the protostomes and the spiralia, so spiral cleavage, we just talked about mollusks, and we're now going to talk about annelids, or the segmented worms. Okay. So these guys, main things about annelids, they're the segmented worms. That's what they are. Okay. What is good about being segmented? Well, I'll tell you. It allows for specialization. You can have specialization within the segments. So you can have segments that are specialized for reproduction, or segments that are specifically for locomotion or excretion. Now, many segments serve multiple purposes, and that's what you typically see, but that is one of the advantages of segmentation. So let us look at a bit at the external and internal anatomy of an annelid. So here we have a member of the Clitolata, so an earthworm. It's an oligochaete. We'll get into that in just a sec. So here, what are we pointing to here? Well, what we're pointing to here are setae. If you look at an earthworm really up close, you may never have noticed, but earthworms have bristles. So that's what a setae, like setae, asceta, setae are plural. Setae is from the Latin for it's for bristles. Yeah, so like little hairs. Okay. Whereas Kete or Keet is like it's more like hairs. It's like projections. Okay, so that's what those are setae of that. That's pointing to. Okay, these segments. This is showing you different segments. You probably noticed an earthworm is segmented. If not, go find you an earthworm and check it out. Oh, this is the clitellum. I'm going to post a video to Isabella Rossellini's green porno. It's not what you think. It's science. It's actually, some of it's a little incorrect, like the way her clitellum works, but it's pretty fun. And it talks about the reproductive capacity of the clitellum, because that's what it is. It serves a reproductive function. Okay, let's look at some internal earthworm anatomy, shall we? All right, so here you have, so here's the thing, earthworms have pretty complex systems. So here you have the mouth, right? And the muscular pharynx, this is what these little lines are going toward. If you look at this on your computer, so I have to keep my slides up, basically in the slides view. I don't have it as a slideshow view right now, so I'm not like clicking it up because otherwise it messes up my broadcasting. So you can look at this though. If you put it on slideshow view, like from current slide, you can click through and it'll show you each of these, okay? But it's also good just to like write these down. So mouth, muscular pharynx, right? This is the ganglia or the brain, ganglion. Here's the esophagus. Now this is actually missing some of the digestive system. It's not actually showing you the crop and the gizzard, but that is part of the earthworm, and hopefully you've seen that in dissection. If not, go find an earthworm, man. I can walk you through it, but basically it's the esophagus and then the crop, which breaks up the organic matter and inorganic matter that the worm takes in the soil, and then the gizzard, okay? So crop and gizzard, you don't really see them on here. They're not labeled. So this is basically showing you esophagus, but the crop is above the gizzard, okay? Cool. So these are really cool. So these are the earthworm's hearts. It has multiple hearts here, okay? These are male gonads, so seminal vesicles and receptacles, but just know male gonads here, for lecture at least, male gonads. Female gonads are down here because earthworms have male and female reproductive organs, so they are hermaphroditic, all right? These, okay, so like, do you see, when you open an earthworm, you can kind of see where the segments have little walls. Those are each the septa. Those walls are septa. Just like when you looked at the fungi and their cells, you have some that are septate, have septa. That's what that is. Oh, whoa. Oh, cool. Okay. All right. Cool. Let's see. So here we have, this is your nerve cord right here. The little white there that's running down from the brain. And this is your ventral blood vessel and your dorsal blood vessel here, okay? As we move down the digestive tract, this is just the intestine. So once you get past the crop and the gizzard, you just have intestine. This is a nephridium. So just like with the mollusks, the annelids, you have nephridia that serve an excretory function and a detoxifying function in the blood. All right, so that is the internal and external anatomy of an annelid. This is just showing you a cross section. So again, you have your dorsal blood vessel, your ventral blood vessel, right? Your intestine, nephridia, right, for detoxification, for filtering. And this is just showing you the coelomic cavity here. All right, so let's talk about the different kinds of annelids. You have lots, about 32,000 species. Here are just a few: Christmas tree worms, little earthworm. You got your leeches. You got your polykeets of all shapes and sizes. These are polykeets too. you know, your clamworms, your scale worms, your lugworms, just all those guys. We're going to go through each of them. So, within phylum Annelida, you have two classes of organisms. The Polykeets or Polyketa, and my dog is giving me attitude, and class Clitolata. Okay, within the Clitolata, you have Oligokeets or Oligoketa, which are the earthworms, and Hierodenia, which are the leeches. Okay, and just as an aside with the Polykeets, we're not positive that they're a monophyletic group. Just be aware of that. The others are. Okay, so I think we're just going to talk about Polykeets in this video for the rest of it, and then we'll stop. And we're going to talk about Oligokeets and Hierodenia in the next time. Cool. So, Polykeets. Important distinctions with Polykeets. Polykeets have parapodia on their segments. Okay, parapodia have many functions, and really the function of a particular worm's parapodia depends somewhat on the worm itself, like what group, what genus it's a part of. Or excuse me, family, at the family level, actually, their functions can be distinct. And basically, these are for locomotion, for swimming. Some of them are, help them in grabbing prey, but most don't have that same distinction. It's usually locomotion, because most of them are not very long. And we think that they also have an important function in gas exchange in the animal. All right, on each parapodium you have chaetae, right? So parapodium here, and then the little hairy things, now they look almost like gills, those are the chaetae. Okay, that's why these are called polykeets, mini hairs. Okay, most of these you will have males and females in the polykeets. They have external fertilization, so the gametes are released directly into the water. And then after fertilization, the zygote undergoes spiral cleavage, and the trochophore larva develops, and that is that free-swimming trochophore larva. That is a hallmark of the Lophotrochozoans. Okay, so here's showing you a life cycle of a polykeet. And the main thing just to know, so here's the embryo that develops into that trochophore larva, all right, after a few days, not long. And then after a few more days, you have, essentially it's just developing more and more. I'm not actually going to make you know like the metatrochophore and the nectokeet, but just know that they go through these various larval stages, okay, and after a few weeks, it's an adult polykeet worm. And these organisms have quite a few roles, occupy quite a few niches. You have some that are scavengers, some that are hunters. So many polykeets are burrowers, and they can be free living, parasitic, and like I said, some of them are hunters, it's free living, or commensal, where they actually have a relationship with an organism. I'm going to show you in a minute an example of that, okay, where they're benefiting, but they're not necessarily hurting the organism that they have a relationship with. So a few of the polykeets, just to give you an overview. This is Neurididae, so genus Neris, which was in lab last week. So here you have the clamworm. Clamworms are, and many of these organisms, most of them are benthic, meaning they live on the bottom, in the sediments, or hard surfaces, mainly sediments, especially if they're burrowers. But Neris, here you have the animal's mouth has these hooks, and those hooks are particularly for catching and pulling prey into the mouth. So the clamworms have a pretty broad, they're pretty much generalists as far as their feeding goes, though. They feed on algae, but also other worms. So that's what they use those 4. Those, they look like fangs, don't they? A little fanged worm, a clamworm. Okay, and they die pretty quickly after reproducing. Clanworms. So again, benthic polykeets. You can see the parapodia. They have kete on them. They blend in very well with the bottom right there. That's actually the worm. They have pretty broad diversity in the polykeets in terms of phenotype or what they look like. So polynoids or scaleworms are mostly active hunters. So they're hunting for things like worms, small crabs, sponges. Actually, some of these polykeets will eat sponges. Well, sponge can't really get away. So, lugworms, also called sandworms, not like the kind you try to ride. I hope somebody got that reference. Yep, I hope so. Spice and slow. Okay, so lugworms, these are burrowers, and they are detritivores, so they eat. Let me make sure you can see these guys. Okay, I hope you can. Yeah, you can. All right, I'm just checking. So they're detritivores. They eat organic matter. They're kind of like the earthworms of the marine world, I guess, because what they do is they burrow into the sand, particularly in intertidal areas, and they ingest organic matter. Obviously, they're ingesting the sand too, just like an earthworm would, but they get their nutrition from bacteria and decaying organic matter in the sand, in the sediments. And these are actually often quite large. And if you've ever been on a beach and you've seen like this kind of stuff at low tide, those are lugworm castings. So a worm casting is essentially worm waste. It's like worm poop, but it's really nutrient rich. That's why people like to take worm castings and put them on their gardens. So these are actually sandworm castings. Yum. Oh, and the families are provided here just for you for your information, but you know, I just want you to be familiar with the family names, but I'm actually not going to test you over family names. I'm going to ask you about um, phylum and class in this instance, and then of course the Oligoceta and the Hyoidina and the Cledolata within the Cledolata. Okay, so I just want to make that clear because I'm showing you the families, the family names. That's just for your own funsies, your fun fact, so you can see how they're separated. All right, tube worms. Tube worms. These are I always call them lipstick worms. They live on the bottom of the ocean near hydrothermal vents. I gotta bring this down. Yeah, and they are crazy. Check it out. All right, so here you've got the tube. This is the tube for the worm. All right, the worm itself, though, it has a little plume out here. So these worms are mutualistic and they are sessile. And basically, what they do is they live inside, or sorry, adjacent to hydrogen sulfide vents on the bottom of the ocean, and they have sulfur oxidizing bacteria within their body cavity. They don't actually have a gut. They have a body cavity where the sulfur oxidizing bacteria use hydrogen sulfide to make energy for the worm. Crazy. They don't even have to eat anything. They're just like, what's up? We got these bacteria colonizing my cavity. I mean, I like eating, but I mean, if you're a tube worm, you probably don't care. I've never asked. Okay, sea mice. Sea mice are very cute, and they, again, most polykeets live in like on the bottom, on the benthos of the intertidal community where they live. So they're called sea mice for a couple of reasons. They're called sea mice because, as you can see, they got a lot of kete, right, on their parapodia. They look kind of like mice, and it's said that they have like mouse-like behavior because they tend to hide a lot. But that's one of the reasons they have that common name. But the family name, the Aphrodite, Aphrodite is actually after Aphrodite because, I'm not joking, when these would wash up on the shore, the ventral part of the animal looks like a vulva. So they named the animals the Aphrodite in honor of Aphrodite, the goddess of love, and hence vulva. Yeah. So there's your fun fact for the day. Sea mice and vulva. Vulvas. Vulvas? Yeah. All right. A couple more polykeets and then we'll be done for today. So these are the Christmas tree worms. They live on coral. So they're sessile worms and they're filter feeders. So see, there's quite a few feeding modes, right? We've had some hunters, we've got some filter feeders, we've got some mutualists that rely on sulfur oxidizing bacteria. So big array of niches within this class. So, which is true in most of ecology and class. You've got lots of different feeding modes because classes are pretty large taxonomic groups. So, Christmas tree worms, they are sessile and they tend to anchor themselves. Stop messing with Peter. They tend to anchor themselves on coral. So they are commensalists with coral. They live on coral and eat food. That's what they do. It's the Christmas tree worm. Ossidax. These are crazy and not very, they were discovered not too terribly long ago. I think they were discovered in the last 20 years. So Ossidax are the bone-eating worms. The bone-eating worms, often called the zombie worms. So, yeah, guess what they eat? They feed on the lipids found in the bones of marine animal carcasses. So they can burrow into the bone and feed on what's inside. When these were discovered, I remember reading about the scientists who found them and was like, what is going on? And so they've actually lowered carcasses into the ocean as part of studies of these animals, and they can disintegrate whole whale carcasses in a matter of days. Okay, so those are the polykeets. I'm going to wait to talk about the other class of Lophotrochozoans. So that's all for today. And we will be back on Friday with worms, more worms, even more worms, earthworms, and leeches. Okay. Oh, maybe I should give you reminders. Oh, yeah. Okay. So this week, remember to watch your other videos and your lab video, which will be me talking about arthropods. And then do your worksheet. And we're supposed to have a quiz this week. And I know you just took an exam, so I'm gonna think about that. I think we may still have a quiz, but I'm going to reduce the number of questions, just because, you just had a test last week. We pushed the second test back, and so I'll keep you updated on that. Okay, so go find a worm.